Recovery Elevator episode 593.
Like it was always like looking for that feeling. And then once I had the feeling, I just wanted it more. It was like an all or nothing situation.
Welcome to the Recovery Elevator podcast. My name is Paul Churchill, and this is how we quit. On today's episode, we have Camille. She's 36 years old, from Montreal, Canada, and she took her last drink on April 20th, 2026. Great job, Camille. If you are thinking about ditching the booze and wondering what your first 7 days away from alcohol looks like, well, we got a free 7-day guide. It's going to map it all out, how you're going to feel physically and mentally, what you can expect. In the show notes, there is a link to get this free guide. Thank you, Robin. Now, today is a Monday. It's when our podcast drops. And this Friday is the 4th of July. Happy Independence Day. And this one's a big one. Happy 250th birthday, America. And if we were to summarize the 4th of July with just one thing, it would be hot dog. I'm just kidding. Well, kinda. No, it would be freedom. And in episode 583, this is 10 episodes ago with Amy, I asked her to describe her life without alcohol, and she said she could do it with one word. That word was freedom. So for Amy, to get freedom, she had to let go of one thing, that's alcohol. And earlier I talked about a 7-day guide away from alcohol. Well, actually, the first 7 days might suck. You probably will. But overall, you're going to experience freedom, peace, clarity, and more energy. That's it. That's not me talking there. Those are the words that have been showing up on this podcast for over a decade. And before we get any further, let's hear from my favorite resource, Cafe RE.
My name is Phidias. For a long time, I never believed I could live an alcohol-free life and truly feel satisfied. I tried over and over again, so many day ones. Being part of Cafe RE has changed that. Not only have I achieved over 6 months of sobriety, but I've also found a community that genuinely embraces and supports who I am and who I'm striving to become. I would not be here without Cafe RE. It's a community of people who are seeking and finding the joys, the tears, and the triumphs of sobriety. Through it all, you never feel like you're going through it alone. Today, I can honestly say that sobriety isn't something I'm just surviving. It's something I'm living. It's given me clarity, connection, and a deeper sense of self that I never thought possible. Go to www.cafe-re.org and enter the promo code CONNECT for your first month free. Again, that's cafe-re.org and use the code CONNECT for your first month free.
Okay, let's get started. If you've been with us over the years, there's one name you've heard, I don't know, maybe 100 times, maybe 200 times on this podcast, and the name is Ben. It's the name of my dog. Especially in the early days of the RE podcast, he's in nearly every single episode and every interview. Well, on June 10th, 2026, at 10:38 a.m., Ben crossed over to the other side. Yeah, I know, it sucks. So he had an aggressive form of lung cancer, and despite an intensive operation, he didn't make it. And oh my, as those who have said goodbye to pets know, that was so hard. It still is. I'm still super sad. So over the years, many have thanked me for the RE podcast. Some have even mentioned the content in the interviews has saved their lives. So we actually need to back it up a bit because Ben, the red standard poodle Ben, is the reason all of this came to light. He saved my life. So all of those thanks need to be directed towards him. In 2014, before I quit drinking, there were times when I'd look at Ben, then at a bottle of vodka, and then back to Ben's loving eyes, and I'd say, all right, let's go for a walk. This guy got me through those crucial early days of sobriety that I built my entire foundation on. He taught me unconditional love. There were days when I'd wake up after a binge and not remember if I fed him or not the night before, but he loved me just the same, even when I couldn't love myself. Ben was staff at Recovery Elevator retreats. Someone shared with me that when their Uber dropped them off at a retreat, they were just about to tell their Uber driver to head back to the airport, but there was Ben at the Uber car door wagging his tail, waiting to greet the person. Another person said it was Ben who made them feel less uneasy at the retreat. Ben knew where to go. He knew who to nuzzle up to. He was so damn good at his job. Now, through this process, my thinking mind has tried to figure it out. Okay, where is Ben? Is he really not coming back? Is Ben in heaven? Yes, there's a movie called All Dogs Go to Heaven. I'll watch that shortly. But wait, maybe he's still with me. Is his energy still here with me? So I don't know where Ben is. But after countless thoughts and tears and trying to figure it out, I always land at the same place, and that's at gratitude. I had 12 incredible years with this dog, Ben, and I'm so thankful for that time. Hallelujah. We've heard the quote, the opposite of addiction is connection. And almost always we think of other humans, other people. And yes, that is super important. But that quote is actually infinite. Ben, a dog, showed me the way. He led me to the light when I was in the darkness. He was there when I felt lost, unsettled, when I wanted to drink. He was an absolute master. He was here to help, to guide, and to save. And for that, mission accomplished, Ben. Now, we've done several moments of silence over the years, but I think it's always been for people. Let's have a moment of silence for the soul who is the reason that we're here listening today. And before we hear from Camille, I want to mention this is an ad from BetterHelp. Let's talk how to thrive instead of just surviving this summer. For some, summer is the best season. Barbecues, camping, the sun's out later, the kids are out of school. For others, it can be tough. The kids are out of school. You got to juggle it all. And this can lead to overwhelm, and you're counting down the minutes until the kids are back in school. So the seed I want to plant with you at the beginning of summer is to take care of yourself. Put yourself first. And a great way to do that is therapy, to talk it out. We believe in BetterHelp, what they're doing. That's why we've been partnering with them for over 5 years. They've got over 1.7 million client reviews with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 stars. You don't have to say yes to everything this summer. Find support and therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/elevator. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/elevator. Camille, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Let's get right into this. When was your last drink, Camille?
My last drink was on April 20th, 2026.
Right on. That was 17 days ago at the time of this recording. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
Feeling great.
All right. I imagine things are still resetting, coming back online. What changes have you already noticed in the last 17 days?
Well, this isn't my first stretch, so I kind of quit and moderated over the last year. So I'm not into like a really deep, hard period because I've gone through that in the past, and we'll talk about it, I'm sure. But for sure, clarity of mind. And for me, the really top thing is waking up, whether I'm feeling bad, groggy, tired, headache, or whatever. It's just the feeling of knowing it's not because I'm hungover. That brings me so much peace of mind. That's just what I love. I'm waking up and I'm just naturally myself.
And listeners, you all are listening to the podcast, but we do our interviews via Zoom. And just to paint the picture, there is an explosion of color that I'm looking at. First off, Camille has a bright green sweater. What do I call that? Yeah. Bright green sweater. There's a printout of a photograph on the wall. There's just a lot of color, a lot of light, what I'm looking at right now. And it's a good background. So before we get into your story, Camille, can you give listeners some background about yourself, where you're calling in from, your age, what does your family or professional life look like? And then what do you like to do for fun? How do you spend your time?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Camille. I'm 36 years old and I'm from Montreal, Canada. I'm a graphic designer for a software company. I live with my partner of 5 years, and we also have his lovely daughter with us every other week. She's wonderful and she's 9 years old. We have a gray cat whose name is Gray. And for fun, I do sports climbing mainly at our local bouldering gym. I crochet, so that's like the knitting with the one hook. I love doing puzzles and all sorts of DIY projects, like crafting stuff, home decorations, and the beds for the cat or anything I can get my hands on.
How long have you been going to the climbing gym?
It's been maybe like 7 years now.
Okay. That is
Are you into climbing?
I think it's fun to climb on things. I've always been a big fan of nature and climbing and hiking and things like that, but not specifically. But that is the one sport where when somebody walks up and maybe they're wearing like a tank top or I can see their arms, I'll be like, you're a climber. It just like the muscle definition required to succeed in that sport is pretty crazy. Do you have climbing arms?
I think so. I have like pretty wide shoulders now that I've been climbing for so long, but it's just such a lovely sport. The community is so amazing, and there's just something about trying to solve a puzzle or like the route they call it, find your way to the top and reaching the top of something is just so gratifying. It's just
Yeah,
such a fun sport.
incredible workout. And it puts you in the present moment without a doubt, because if you're not,
Absolutely.
you can fall. And if you're not on ropes, yeah, I mean, you're bouldering, like any, it can hurt. You probably are familiar with Alex Honnold. Is that the right name?
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that movie when he scaled El Capitan with no ropes several years ago and was just blown away. What do you think of him?
He's insane. Very talented, but what a daredevil. It's pretty crazy to take that amount of risk, but I think he's very confident in what he does. And he did that Netflix live climb in Taiwan like around Christmas time. That was insane.
Was
My hands
that
were so sweaty watching it.
was that a building, right?
Yeah, that was a building, which actually in the end, watching it, it was like pretty much like a ladder for him, I'm sure. But still, it was really theatrical.
Yeah, that's unreal. So cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Camille, let's do what we came here to do. I'm going to turn it over to you with your story. I'll jump in with questions. I'm excited to hear it.
Thank you so much for having me. So, my very first drink was when I was 13 and I was in boarding school, and my roommate, who was 14 and was actually already struggling with alcoholism. So, this is heartbreaking. It was midday and she had this water bottle filled with vodka, and she had poured us a shot in those little containers that have the surprise in like the Kinder Surprise chocolate. And so, I took 2 shots of that and then I went to class drunk. So that could have served as a really good foreshadowing for how destructive alcohol could be, but obviously I didn't see that at the time.
I usually let people roll a little longer before jumping in with a question, but all right, so your roommate in boarding school, you were 13 and she was 14, and your roommate at age 14 was already throwing down shots midday going to school.
She had a water bottle filled with vodka. So,
Oh my gosh. Where
yeah.
is this person now? I mean, that was probably like 20 years ago, even more.
Yeah, this person is sober now.
Oh,
So I'm
wow.
really,
Okay.
really proud of her for that. And actually her brother was also struggling with alcohol and her parents. So I think she was just kind of like born into it, unfortunately, but she found her way out.
Wow. Okay. Back to Camille.
So because I was in boarding school and I was actually kind of like a goody two shoes, so there wasn't that many opportunities to drink, but when there were, the main objective was definitely to get drunk. And so it was a lot of shots and binge drinking. But I think there's one memorable time that really scarred me, and it was attending my friend's grandfather's funeral, where it was happening outside, and we were running from table to table, stealing the guests' wine bottles so we could chug them. And I ended up being like extremely drunk and being sick on her mom's kitchen floor. And I lost consciousness at some point. She gave me like a cold bath, and I woke up wearing different underwear, so that was just like another hint that things were getting precarious, and doing such damage at a funeral is like a pretty clear red flag.
What age were you at the
So,
funeral?
so I was 16, yeah,
Okay.
at the time. So
Gotcha.
that carried on into like my late teens, early 20s, where I would go clubbing with my sister practically like every Friday. And we just lined up like melon ball martinis and Goldschlager shots, just with the aim of getting drunk right off the bat. And I can't tell you how many times we got sick or got into stupid fights. And I would say that what really sealed the deal was starting a bartending job during my studies, which ended up lasting like over 6 years. So this is from around when I was like 23 to 29. And don't get me wrong, it was super fun working in a bar. I met a lot of great people, but for like that 6 year stretch, it was practically a constant either being drunk or hungover, like one or the other for 6 years.
Well, it's something in that environment. I was going to say 6 years is a long time. You justify it because everybody around you probably drinks a similar amount. Am I right?
Yeah, the environment is just, you're in that same spirit of partying and it's just so toxic and it's like really like a vicious cycle because we're all like hyping each other up and like everything is normalized because we're all there to drink and to serve drinks.
Did you ever try to scale back or go into the shift and be like, I'm not drinking tonight. I'm just going to go serve drinks, not drinking?
You know what? I tried, but it was like this kind of like small corner pub where people went to party. And, as soon as I told a customer at the bar, like buying us drinks or shots, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to drink tonight. And it's like, oh, that's lame. And they were just kind of like, well, I'm going to leave then, like they so came there for the party and for the entertainment of us drinking together that it was like almost part of my job. It was that endless cycle of like a drinking while working and then going out after work. So we would close the bar at like 3 a.m. But for us, it was like the end of our shift, right? We were like working. So we would go out after and then drink some more. So I was surrounded by people who did the same, like you said. So it's like this really twisted sense of like this pride to party it up like harder than anyone else. And for myself to like hold my liquor better than some of the men like, sitting at the bar. Very unhealthy relationship with alcohol at that point.
This is bringing up so many memories, Camille. I used to own a bar in Spain called Dolce Vita, and
Yeah.
at the end of every shift, and of course, same thing, I had to drink with the patrons, or I told myself I had to. Hey, it's better for business. It was like, hey,
Right.
I'm done with work. Just like someone ends work at 5 p.m., they go out for drinks. I was in at 3 a.m. I'd go to the clubs, and you just brought up even like a song by Bob Sinclair, World Hang On, like the Discoteca song came to mind. Were there moments in there where it was like, this isn't as cool as it used to be?
Near the end, because I was studying at the same time, and like bartending is the best student job because the
Tips.
schedules like are really well tips for the amount of hours that you work. You're like paid so much more than a regular job, but also the schedules are compatible, like you go to
Mm.
school during the day and then you can work like the nightlife. But near the end of my studies, I was getting really tired because I was going to class hungover, tired. Sometimes I hadn't slept. So I was getting tired. I was looking forward to get out of that world, but I wasn't contemplating to moderate drinking while I was in that world. It seemed like impossible to me.
At this moment, had there been any repercussions? I know the funeral at age 16, but were you blacking out, finding yourself in dangerous situations, or a friend or a colleague saying, look, Camille, I think you're drinking too much?
Not really, because it became like part of just normality. And we got so good at mastering the art of drinking. Like people couldn't believe that I drank that much and I still, was counting the cash at the end of the night and just still working and standing straight. So I think I just looked pretty normal.
Again, you brought up memories. I remember being blacked out, counting the cash register, writing down the order for liquor for the next day, and it was all perfect. And I would use that to justify to myself, like, hey, man, you're doing great. Yeah, until I wasn't. So, Camille, what
Yeah, the
happens?
autopilot.
Yeah, yep. And so what happens next?
So by the time I started working in my profession of graphic design, just before I turned 30, I had really solidified this relationship with alcohol of it like being excessive. So even if I had quit bartending life to work professionally full time, when I had the occasion to drink, it was still like that binge or like shots, always wanting to get drunk, like not really, appreciating the wine pairing with this meal. Like it was always like looking for that feeling. And then once I had the feeling, I just wanted it more. It was like an all or nothing situation.
Camille, I know there were several nodding heads out there. when you said, look, I'm just drinking to get drunk, right? And then when you get that feeling, I'm going to double down. I'm going to drink more. I'm going to get more of it, right?
Yeah.
And then did you reach a moment where you couldn't get more of it? Because for me, I would just black out, right?
I never blacked out really, so I guess that's a positive. But the thing is that you don't get more, like when you're in that happy drunk, when you drink more, you don't get like more happy, you just get more sloppy, so forgetting things. And this is so funny because just yesterday I was in a cafe trying to like prepare this interview with the chronological orders of things, and the staff there were talking and I was overhearing them talking about what sounded like a staff party they had the night before. And the one guy was saying how he was like so drunk, he was blacked out, he couldn't remember anything of the night, and the bouncer had to get him off this table he was standing on, and just like super sloppy. And they were all laughing, you know, it's so normalized. And that's kind of the world I was living in. The context I was in, with the people I was hanging out with, and even like my family, like my sister and her boyfriend, and we were all like party people. So it was hard to kind of consider there was a problem.
I imagine the drinking tapered down a bit when you started your graphic design job, right? And you were no longer working at the bar.
Of course, of course. So I really slowed down because I just wasn't working in a place where drinking was part of my my job description, or so I thought. But when the occasions presented themselves, it was maybe even more so like the binge drinking because it was less frequent. But then also like fast forward a few years after, and between let's say the age of like 33 and now, I was drinking daily, not so much to party, but just to like get the edge off and like relax. And it started being like my go-to drink was a dirty martini, so practically just like pure alcohol. And I was really generous with it. So it was probably like two drinks in one kind of thing. And I had at least two of those every night, if not more. And then I started looking forward to that drink starting at like noon or sometimes even sooner. So that's when it became like a daily thing that I started wishing that alcohol was not part of my life, because obviously I was always struggling. Once you have one, then it was always that fight of when do I stop, because that inner demon just wanted more and more all the time.
Yeah, way to describe that. Once you have one, there's that inner demon that just wants to keep on going. Yeah. Just a second ago, you mentioned there was part of you that was wishing for there to be no more alcohol in your life. Was that a specific moment? You're like, oh my gosh, I really wish this was not the case. And wishing, is that another way for prayer, or was that journal entries or just internal declarations? Or was it like an actual honest conversation with yourself, Camille, saying, wow, I wish this was different?
Kind of all of the above. I was having a gratitude journal at the time, kind of had the 5 minute journal. So there's entries of what you wish for yourself and what you hope for that day. So I had a lot of entries that were like, I'm not going to drink today, or I'm going to drink less. So that was definitely a thing, entries in the journal. Also thoughts to myself, like when you wake up hungover, like, oh my God, why did I do this again? And just that feeling of regret. But mostly that feeling of not having control over it, like wanting to not drink so much and then doing it anyway. So when you stop having control over something, that's when you start feeling like you're kind of just like a puppet. And that's when I started to, yeah, wish things were different. So not prayer, but just feeling, I guess, like an inner feeling of, I think my relationship with alcohol isn't that fun. There's not really a lot of pros in this pros and cons situation.
Kimmy, you highlighted an interesting and scary part in our journey. It's a feeling that we're out of control, but we're accepting that feeling. We've tried to moderate for a long time. That has not worked. And there's this feeling that we're out of control, that nothing is going to work. You don't know how to stop it. Can you expand a little bit more on that for us?
I just felt like I was a slave to alcohol. Like I just woke up saying I'm not going to drink tonight, and then at night I was drinking. So it was so frustrating, and you feel like powerless, and at the same time you're really hard on yourself. Like why am I so weak? Or like there's just a lot of shame that comes with that. And yeah, you could feel like really disgusted with yourself.
For me, that was the beginning of the end, because those feelings were so uncomfortable. I mean, they're terrifying. You're losing control of your life, and you can see, oh shit, if this goes on for another year or two or three or this could kill me. And that's where the cycle starts because I would drink to make those feelings go away, right? And
Right.
so it's worse. And when I say the beginning of the end, that was the precipitous downfall that made the anxiety so heightened, which eventually pushed me into sobriety. So what was it like for you when you realized you're out of control? What were your next steps?
There was one, I wouldn't call it a rock bottom moment, but it was like it was like an illumination that happened one day. I had signed up for this like 5 kilometer race for a fundraising event that a friend was participating in. And as a non-runner, that was really hard. So I had like the personal goal of running the whole thing and never walking and never stopping. And I almost passed out at the end, like crossing the finish line, but I had made it and I was like super proud of myself. And later that day, I went to my sister's place for a family dinner and we partied as usual. And I had way too many drinks, of course. And during the night, I woke up and I was sick and it just hit me. I just asked my body to do like this huge effort and then I poured poison into it. And that was like an image that was so vivid and it really stuck with me. And that was my first last drink. So that was actually April 20th of 2025. And so I didn't drink for 2 months after that realization. I like cold turkey. That's where I really felt the symptoms of stopping drinking. So a lot of brain fog, headaches all the time, really bad sleep, difficulty concentrating, extreme fatigue. So I felt that for like a month or two.
I love how you phrased that. You said, I just asked my body to do something extremely difficult, strenuous to run a 5K. And then I'm going to put poison into my body. And there's some paradigms that are just so incorrect. And that's fairly common after a marathon or half marathon or any finish line after an organized race. Hey, go get your beer at the beer trailer, beer cooler, whatever. Yeah, I like how you phrase that. Okay. And so that realization of like, whoa, not good, not fair to my body, mind, soul, and spirit. You went 2 months without alcohol, and you just mentioned it was hard, brain fog, all those things. Did you see any light in those 2 months without alcohol?
I did like what I said in the beginning, just waking up and knowing that even though I felt like extreme fatigue or huge headache and just like shit and really foggy, I just knew it wasn't a hangover. And that just made me feel so relieved that it just was my fuel to continue past just all the symptoms. I was just like, it doesn't matter because it's not me that did this. And if anything, it just proved how much alcohol had an impact on me. If something leaves you with so many symptoms when you quit it, that means it was really, really impacting your system.
Yeah, it's one of, if not the most difficult and dangerous and toxic drugs to detox from. Absolutely. Even though you were detoxing, right? Brain fog and the other things you mentioned. Listeners, Camille was starting her day on a different note, right? So you woke up without a hangover, and just that alone made you feel good. And on the flip side, so many of us, especially at the end, we start our day where we have to pull out of a nosedive, meaning we start our day with shame, regret, a hangover, and oh, fuck, I'm going to do something about this, but probably tomorrow, probably the next day. And so just from the instant we wake up and open up our eyes, that's a huge difference of how our day starts. And so after those 2 months, right, that was not your last drink date of April 20th, 2026. What happened?
So I guess that was my period of trying to moderate. So over all of 2025, I must have drank on 10 special occasions. Some lasted a week, like vacation, or others were just like one evening. So I limited myself to however many drinks or this place or whatever I considered to be a special occasion. And I did lose control a few of those times where that evil party animal came out. But going from drinking every day to that was still monumental for me. So I was still really encouraged to keep navigating this journey with alcohol. And so a year later, we're now in 2026. One of those special occasions where I allowed myself to drink was going on a trip to the Dominican Republic with my boyfriend. And I decided not to impose any limits on myself. And it was the first time going to like a sun destination since I had opened this reflection on my drinking. So I went into it like I would have in the past. So it was an all-inclusive resort, and I just drank all day, shots, wine, cocktails, all of it. I even had like one nightcap like in bed. And I just felt so much shame. And by the third day of this vacation, this was beginning of April, I was tired, I was sick, and I was just really disgusted with myself. And I just thought, no, like I want this out of my life. I obviously can't moderate. And I think it was you that may have said it in one of your podcasts, but I just came to the conclusion that it's so much easier to just stop altogether than to try to have a handle on it. So that was my last drink, that one in bed on April 20th, which is exactly the day of the 1 year where I opened this reflection in April of 2025. So a year later, April 20th, 2026 was that last drink. And now I know there's no moderating. I guess it's like two illuminations back to back. One last year of alcohol is a problem and I don't want it in my life. And I'm going to manage it. And then the second one, if I cannot manage, it's just going to be out for good.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest opportunities and that also the scariest moment when we go, I cannot moderate this. I think I'm going to try to quit for good. It's like expansive and contracting at the same time. I remember that feeling well. It's just easier. It's the path of least resistance to not drink at all. And then all the recovery work came later with that. Right. And so, what has it been like the last 17 days for you?
Well, first of all, the last 4 days of that vacation at that all-inclusive, on the beach with the drinks and the bars and everything, I spent without drinking. So I'm amazed I was even able to do that. But it's like that switch had gone off and I just felt really at peace with it. And my boyfriend was still drinking, and he doesn't have a relationship as complicated with alcohol as I do. He drinks like a normal person, but he was still drinking, and I didn't have a problem with it because I was just so at peace with the decision I had come to. And so spending the last of that vacation sober was amazing. And then when I came back home, it's just, I mean, the same. I just feel really solid in how I feel about it. Doing this podcast also is such a commitment. I really want to anchor my commitment in tangible actions. And I just feel really, really proud of myself.
Are you going to share this interview with anybody?
I think so. I mean, I'm the type of person that's really open and really vulnerable with the people around me. I surrounded myself with really great people, so it's easy to be vulnerable with them, but I've always been open. So this is something I've already talked about with my sister, who is kind of like my party buddy, very open with my boyfriend, with my friends. I actually have still very close friends from that bar era who also struggle with alcohol, who have been an inspiration to me. So we've been really open talking about it. So I think there's not going to be that much shame about sharing it because I'm actually really proud about it. I think it shouldn't be a secret. Yeah, I think I'm going to share it.
I'm glad you highlighted that you quit drinking in the middle of an all-inclusive drinking trip in the Dominican Republic. I kind of missed that. So midway through, you stopped drinking and you said you had peace with that. Can you expand a little bit more? Is that a peace that arrived knowing that moderation doesn't work? I have to just not drink at all? What was it?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it was. I think that over the last year, I had allowed myself those drinking days, and more often than not, I just, went overboard. So it's not for me. I don't think I can manage. And it's so funny because I think you had listed like over the 550 interviews you might have done that nobody had succeeded in moderating. And I'm like, well, I'll be 551 because I just came to accept that alcohol is not for me.
Yeah, so we're 593 weeks in a row where we have not heard a story of success in the long run, to be clear on that. The last year, from April 20th, 2025 to this year, it sounds like a ton of progress was made. And a lot of people think it's like down, 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 rock bottom, last drink, and up. But the last year, you stacked a lot of days. It sounded like there was a ton of progress made, even a couple times where you moderated successfully. Maybe you weren't drinking the way you wanted to drink. Maybe it wasn't fun, but sounds like there was some success there. But can you speak to somebody who thinks they have to like crash and burn, hit rock bottom, and then quit drinking for good? That does happen, but you almost took so many action steps during the last year that set you up to a position where you quit mid all-inclusive resort in the Dominican Republic. Like I've never heard that. That's amazing.
I know that's insane. Well, I think it was really just being kind to myself and just being more like observing myself. Like I really took a step back and just opened that door to just reflect on what my drinking was, which was the first time I had done it after that pivotal moment in 2025. And I just observed myself going, and I just tried to, I really call it navigating, because it was like, I'll try this and I'll try that. And how does that make me feel? And I just kind of fed off from how good I felt when I didn't drink, and then reminded myself when I did kind of lose it, like, this is exactly the feeling that makes me feel so ashamed or anxiety. And I guess it just kind of happened naturally because it had been a wish in my head for so many years of like, I wish I was free of this. Once I saw that picture of what I was really doing to myself, I just decided I didn't want to do it.
Another data point, a theme that is so clear in this podcast, you just said, is to be kind to yourself. Without a doubt, you've yet to meet anybody who's quit drinking who hasn't addressed that self narrative. You can't harsh language yourself into sobriety. I know I tried, it didn't work. You mentioned being like a kind observer to yourself. And the word that comes to my mind when I hear that is awareness. Hey, let's just see what happens when I drink, like watching you from a different consciousness. Talk to us more about that space or that awareness, or how you were observing yourself and didn't jump in with a narrative like, oh, I don't have a problem. Oh, I drink like everybody else. What was that like? How did you do that?
Well, I think I had gone through all of those steps before, like working in the bar and with family and just partying. I think I had repeated to myself many times, like, it's not a problem. Everybody does it, which I also find difficult because it's so socially accepted to like drink and to be drunk. And initially, I don't think I saw it as a problem because I didn't fit what I thought was the picture of someone with a problem, like this alcoholic person with the red nose and stumbling and smelling of booze. It was so much more insidious that I hadn't like put a finger on it. But once I did lean into those feelings of I wish things were different, I just, I guess, chose to give myself grace, be tolerant, and be forgiving. And this is going to sound cheesy, and I've heard it many times before for many different situations, but you have to talk to yourself as you would for a friend. So if a friend had a problem with alcohol, how would you, encourage them? And I kind of just adopted that for myself.
Are you going to any recovery programs, 12 steps, AA, like a daily thing?
No daily thing, but I did join a support group from the local, like a substance abuse center that had a support group of people who wanted to moderate their substance use habits. And this was before I had gone with the idea of just abstinence completely. But over the last year, I did join that group, and it was people of all different substances who were just trying to moderate. So that was really interesting. And what helped me the most about just being in a support group in general was the fact that you're not alone. And actually, that's what I also enjoy from your podcast, is just the more you feel like you're not alone in the struggle of the human experience, the more at peace you become to just be patient with yourself and just take what works from friends or others who've struggled. So yeah, support groups I thought were a really great thing to join, but haven't done AA or any daily thing like that.
Kimmy, I think one of the most potent things of an addiction is it makes you feel alone. It's a driver that just puts you in the dirt, you in a bottle. And I believed it. Thought I was the only one who struggled. What do you have to say, Camille, to somebody out there who is feeling alone, right? Who thinks they are the only one who is struggling with alcohol?
I would say you're not alone. And I think the reason why we feel alone is because having a problem with alcohol is just so shameful that because we feel that shame, we don't speak about it. And I think that's why a podcast like yours is great, is because speaking about it lets people realize that you're not alone. So I think just breaking that stigma of keeping what you think might be shameful to yourself, just opening up about it with people that you trust. And the more you speak of it, the less it becomes something of shame. And the more you can start just to be forgiving about it and then address the problem. Because if you're ashamed, like you said, it's kind of that vicious cycle where you might drink actually because you feel so ashamed.
Camille, there's a phrase in this space. It's less about quitting drinking and more about creating a life where you don't need alcohol. Do you track with that? And then how are you creating a life that doesn't involve alcohol?
I do really believe in that. I think it's just become such a foundational part of society to like have a drink. You celebrate, you have a drink. You did something good, you have a drink. Like all the opportunities are there. It's in the movies, it's like everywhere. But when you think about it, none of that is necessary. And what I've been questioning myself about, of course, is, well, how will I enjoy going to party without drinking? Or how will I let loose, after work if I don't have that drink? And in the end, I'm just thinking the need to drink is always gonna start from another need. What if what I need is a warm bath? Or what if what I need is some quiet time? Or I just think there's always a reason why I drank, and it's just to identify that reason and just fill that hole in another way.
Yeah, let me ask you that. Do you think alcohol was playing a role, like a medicine of sorts? Was it filling a void? And what do you think the underlying issue with the drinking was, if there is any?
I definitely think so. I think I'm someone who is very performance driven. Like, I think I have performance anxiety. I'm an extremely overachiever. I have very high standards and expectations for myself. So I think that comes with a lot of pressure, a lot of desire to like control and excel at everything and optimize everything and be very efficient. And I think drinking was a way to turn that off, but in the end, I think it just made it worse ultimately, because even if I got that relief temporarily, very temporarily, after those feelings of being inadequate were actually so much stronger and the anxiety was so much bigger. I think it kind of came as a medicine for that, but unsuccessfully.
Camille, how do you decline a drink?
Like I said, I'm surrounded by people who are really, really amazing. So everyone is supportive, which I think plays a big role in recovery. Recovery might need to impose like a cleaning of your surroundings if people are not supportive or if people are still like really into drinking. And unfortunately, that can be really hard to do, but I think it's really important. And for myself, I'm already surrounded by people who are super supportive. So I just say no. I also drink a lot of alcohol-free cocktails, and it's actually been fine. In the end, people don't really care, I think. It doesn't really make a difference whether you have a glass of water or, if you're having a good time with loving people, alcohol is just not needed.
I think in your life, you don't need to decline a drink because everybody around you knows you don't drink and they're not offering you drinks.
Well, no, they always do, especially because I had that year of moderation. So let's say I'll have dinner with my family, they'll offer me a glass of wine, but they won't judge when I say no. They won't make me feel different. They're just so open about it and respectful of it that it doesn't feel like I'm turning down something great.
So in America, things are shifting. There's an explosion of alcohol-free beverages on the market, in restaurants, and just people are drinking less. Are you seeing the same thing in Canada, Camille?
Yeah, yeah, it's the same. Absolutely. I think there's like an awakening of this is really toxic and really dangerous. And why are we minimizing how dangerous it is?
You
Definitely, there's a shift.
you phrased it so beautiful earlier with your 5K, and it could be said with so many things. Oh, I just got a promotion at work. I'm gonna go poison myself. Hey, I just
Yeah.
graduated high school. I'm gonna go poison myself. It's like, what? And it makes us feel good, but then a hangover the next day, it always makes things worse overall, whether it's just one drink or a lifetime of drinking. At the end of the day, you're going to be in a worse position. That's just how drugs in general work. You go up high, but you come down lower than you started the previous day. So I love how you phrase that.
Well,
Where do
it's
you
really funny
go?
because you feel like you're rewarding yourself, but to the body, you're injuring it. it's not compatible to want to celebrate with something that is actually harming you.
Yeah. Again, I love how you phrased that. How are you going to get day 18, day 19 and 20 in 30 days?
I'm going to keep anchoring my commitment in tangible actions, like I was saying, like this podcast. I mean, I want to make myself accountable. So once you take all these actions that solidify your commitment and where you want to go, then you're accountable. And it's only me who can be. So I'm just going to focus on that. And that feeling of just existing as I am naturally and just accepting the human experience. So maybe I will feel anxiety, maybe I will feel I underperformed, and I don't have to cover it up with a mind-altering substance.
Yeah, the founder of AA, Bill W., he pulled a line from the Bible. I don't know where it came from, but it's faith without works or faith without action is dead. And he applies it to recovery, saying, yeah, your idea of a sober life is noble. It's great. It's a step in the right direction. But recovery and sobriety and your alcohol-free life is more about action. And you're doing it right now. You are on a podcast. We're 45, 50 minutes in, sharing your story with other people, to other people for the direction to help them. So you're taking major action. I love it. Camille, we have reached the rapid fire round. If you could either answer these questions within 5 to 10 seconds, that would be great. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. What's the best thing about Canada?
Poutine. You've heard of that meal?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. What's the one thing you learned about yourself since quitting drinking?
That I am super strong.
What's your best sober moment?
Waking up in the morning.
What's your favorite alcohol-free drink?
I actually love the Mox cocktails. It's MOX. It's from Canada. Actually, it's from Montreal, and they're really surprising in their flavors, like lavender, spice, mango. So you should check it out.
Camille, what's the point of life?
Existing together in that human experience with all the ups and the lows.
And what parting piece of guidance can you give to somebody who's out there listening going, I don't think I can do this?
You can do this, and be forgiving with yourself, be tolerant, give yourself grace.
And Camille, before we depart, give listeners your own "you might need to ditch the booze if" line.
You might need to ditch the booze if you wake up telling yourself you're never drinking again, and then you're having alcohol for breakfast.
Yeah, for breakfast. We're both in the right spot. Been there for sure. Camille, thank you so much for coming on the podcast with 17 days away from alcohol. Incredible job. I know you'll build off that. I can't wait for you in the future. Thank you, Camille.
Thank you, Paul.
Shit, that was probably one of the hardest intros I've had to write. 500 plus. So, but like I said, where all of these thoughts, emotions, and tears lead me to is just to gratitude. Thank you, Ben, for walking alongside me for 12 years. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you. And my goodness, did so many people reach out to me. So thank you for the texts, the calls, the messages on Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. Holy cow, that dog Ben reached a lot of lives. I want to thank our production team for today's episode. We have our editor, Natasha, Robin with the show notes, and Chris on the decks putting it all together.
Wiki.
And I want to thank our sponsors. Recovery Elevator, you took the elevator down. You got to take the stairs back up. We can do this.
I see you, Savior, I see you, Savior, Almighty Savior, I see you, Savior, I see you, Savior, I see you, Savior, Almighty Savior, I see you, Savior.